We're delighted today to have as our forum speaker Brother Ron Grow, who also works with us as a volunteer here at Southern Virginia University. Brother Grow has a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University in TV broadcasting. He also has a master's degree also from Michigan State in nonverbal communications. He has studied at Stanford University as well, and he has studied pantomime under Marcel Marceau, and very good studies. And he has spent most of his life in stage and film, in writing and directing. He's worked with such celebrities, and I know it's a little before a few of you, but Red Skelton. How many of you remember Red Skelton? All right, a lot of hands up there. Red Skelton, Jackie Gleason, Dick Cavett. He has worked with these folks and several others, and we're delighted to have him here with us today. He's married. He has 6 children. He tells me that by Valentine's Day he will have 12 grandchildren. So I think he's just a few short of that right now. 3 short of that. So by Valentine's Day he'll be 12. He spends a lot of his time writing humor. And the topic of his forum presentation today is Who Thought This Up? And I'll let him expand on that. But I should tell you before Brother Grow comes up that today's forum is being videotaped for possible marketing by a company that produces and markets LDS related forums and talks. So when you applaud or laugh, please do so with much vigor and enthusiasm. And we are pleased to welcome Brother Ron Grow.
That music was just a perfect piece for this talk. I do have a sense of humor, as some of you may know, and I apologize for having that sense of humor sometimes, because sometimes my mouth just doesn't shut up when it should. I prayed a lot about this talk. This talk came about because I was asked to give a talk at my home ward in Utah, and they said do 15, 20 minutes. And 2 of the speakers didn't show at the last minute, and the bishop says, Brother Grow, you can handle it. Just fill it. You can do it. And so out of that improvisational moment that I had, I did this talk, and I pray that you'll get the humor of it and enjoy it. If you can imagine a man growing up in Montana who's never been to the church, never been inside the church, decides to visit a church. And he goes a couple times, and after the 3rd time, where he goes to the fast and testimony, he comes back and he wants to tell his friend, his wife, about this church. And he said, it was really interesting. When you go in, well, I was walking down and there's this building, there's no spires on it. There's no glass stain. I mean, it's just kind of a plain building. But I'm walking, and everybody's walking in with a lunch bucket or something. They got a hint there. And I didn't bring my lunch because I didn't know that, I didn't know it was, well, anyway. So this college kid comes up and I said, good morning. And I said, what is that? And it had a zipper on it. I never saw a lunch bucket with a zipper. And he said, no, that's the quad. I said, what's the quad? Well, that's scriptures. Whoa. This must be big print. No, it's just, well, he said, you're just visiting. Yeah, I'm just visiting, yeah. I don't know how he knew that, but anyway. He says, do you want a missionary? I said, is that a candy bar? No, he said, no. Well, I said, well, what's a missionary? Oh, really? How many missionaries does this church have? 50. 50,000? That's a pretty small building for 50,000. Oh, they're all, well, yeah, well, who thought that up? You know, they all, and everybody had one of these these scriptures. They all had them. Kids had them. Little kids had them. You know, that's neat. I said, do they read them? Some. Oh, well, that's No. You don't have to buy me one. I'll get my own. They probably sell them in there, right? Oh, well, that's a... Anyway, we parted company, and I started to go inside, and this old lady, she just needed help, and I said, may I help you? And she said, I want to be baptized. Well, excuse me, ma'am, can you baptize her? What's she laughing at? Well, anyway, you better see somebody inside. How old are you? 82. Well, I'm not that old. It's never. I guess I'm okay. I'm not that old yet. No, you wouldn't understand that. I don't know who thought this up. Well, anyway, the people were. Here's what was interesting. The people were all going in kind of fast. I mean, they're supposed to be there 11. It was about 5 after, and they're all going in. And they're really going in fast. But you know what? They turned around, came right back out, because they were coming out as fast as they were going in. And well, that's the kind of church I want. I mean, a fast sermon, man, that's what I want. They probably got a drive-through. That's what I like about you. And I go inside, and I think they're having a reunion. Everybody's shaking everybody's hand and calling you brother. Hi, brother. I don't know. I'm not related to any of them. And this guy says, what's your name? Ron. Ron what? He's real friendly. Ron Grow. Well, welcome, Brother Grow. I'm not related at all, you know. Everybody, they were so friendly. I couldn't believe how friendly they were. And so I go in and I what's that, sir? Investigating? Why, did somebody steal something? What happened? Well, just tell me what happened. I used to be in the police force. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm visiting. No, I don't know anything. Or as my son would say, I don't know nothing about what's going on. And I go in this building, and you probably, I don't know who thought this up, but there's no stained glass windows, there's no cross, no pictures, no relics. It's kind of humble. And it's clean. There's an order to this building. I really like, you could concentrate in here. Kind of like that. Well, where am I going to sit? I'm not going to sit up front. I go way in the back. I'm in the back. So I'm sitting back there, Oh, babies. They got 100,000 babies back there. They should have brought them in later. They must have been having a convention back there. Maybe a pediatric is going to take a survey. I don't know what. It's probably a nursery, but I'm not going to sit there. I'm going to go further, but I don't go all the way up, and I sit down. And there's a man sitting here. He has 25 kids. Now, you think I'm exaggerating? It's probably 30, but I mean the row. I'm not. Why do they let all these kids in here? They bring all the kids of the whole town and they put them in here. Well, who thought that up? And I'm sitting there, and one of his daughters turns around and just stares at me. Hi. What's your name? Ron. Is your mommy here? no, no. Did your mommy throw up too? Your tie's cooking? What are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to be like Jesus. I wasn't ready for that one. We're not supposed to talk in the church, are we? Why? Well, my sister's sick. She threw up all over the couch. Yeah, okay. We're not supposed to be talking in the church. You are. Can you all hum? Give me a note that you can hum, and I want you to hum. I'm a child of God because it fits what I'm about to tell you. Okay, go ahead. Oh, somebody give me a note. Now just hum it. So then this congregation starts to sing. And this little girl looks around, and of course, I don't know the song. And she says, "Mommy, he's lost. Give him a page number." And she hands me her book. And they sing this song. This little girl sang the entire song from memory. Just a little kid. I couldn't believe this. All these kids were singing. The kids down here were singing. One old man that looked 150, he's singing. And then you know what happened? Sarah's mother bolted out of the chair. I must have offended her, so she's heading out the church. I thought, what did I say? She didn't take her daughter with her. No, she didn't leave. She went up on the front. She crossed her arms and she gave one of the most spiritual prayers I have ever heard. Right out of the audience. I don't know if they asked her to do it, but she just... Do you know they have no paid minister in this church? None. They do it for nothing. They just call you up on the phone and say, you're in charge. So they call you up, then they change your name to Bishop. You know what, the man they call in charge, he looks like an auto mechanic. Doesn't look like a leader at all. Who thought this up? And I don't think they trust him. There's something wrong here because they wanted two other guys to watch over him. And they call him a counselor. And the word is they never counsel anybody. Except their wives who don't pay any attention to them. One of the counselors looked like a professional wrestler. The other one looked like a clerk at Walmart. But you know what? They had a look. They were something else. They had a look like they were communicating with God. I mean, you followed them. You listened to them. When they got up, there was the man. I don't know if it was the two counselors. They call them the Ricks, and I don't know if it was a bishop got up or the Ricks got up, but one of them got up and he talked about he made announcements. Now the congregation must have heard the announcement because they weren't paying attention at all. And they talked about the choir and this and that, and nobody paid a word. They don't even have a business manager or a secretary. They just make phone calls and say, okay, you're in charge. They don't pay you any money. Well, they don't get paid things you could put into your wallet. Who thought this up? And this man kept looking at me, and he looked like he wanted to talk. And excuse me, what time does this church end? Huh? What time is it? 3 hours? No wonder they're leaving early so fast in this morning. Coming on here. Well, who thought this up? I'm not making this up. All of a sudden, a whole bunch of kids little kids, got up in a bunch up in front. And the room got quiet. Now, I don't know who dresses those kids, but their jackets, their coats were about 9 sizes too big, their pants are too long, their shoes looked like they'd been polished with Brillo pads, and their hair was either combed straight down or sticking straight up. But you know what? I don't want you to laugh at this. Those kids were reverent. They passed the bread, they passed the water, and I'm going to tell you something. This room got quiet. I don't know where they found those kind of kids. I've never seen kids like that anywhere. I mean, it was a spiritual moment. Who thought this up? One of the best things I liked about that church. Now this one, I guess he thought this up too, but you had a bench in front of you. Now it's not too far away so that you could do this, and a lot of them did it. Well, it's great because you could bend over. That keeps you from falling on the floor. You can stay like that. In fact, you could sleep. You probably could read a book. There were a lot of books there, lots of books. I never saw. Do you know you can get breakfast in this church? They had enough Cheerios to feed the whole street. They had Cocoa Puffs, Goldfish, Oreo cookies, and a lot of Cheerios. I know they had milk because I saw it in sippy cups and bottles. I didn't see any bowls. I didn't bring a bowl. I didn't know I was going to get breakfast. I didn't have a spoon, but I guess they're just eating without it. I don't know. They had a lot of pacifiers. I think for the old men. I don't know. And I must tell you, I've been to a lot of churches, but these people must think about what they're going to do before they get there because they dress up. They put a tie on. They put a pretty dress. They come in Sunday clothes. They're honoring their God. Now, that may seem odd for me to tell you that, but see, where I go, you can go in shorts. You can go, you could you could get off the tennis court and walk right in the churches I've been to. But you wouldn't do it here. And I'm not making this up either. It's a great place to write a letter, though. They bring pencils, crayons, chalk. They got more paper and books. And you could probably write a letter to... They probably got more crayons in this church than any kindergarten school in town. Who thought this up? Now, I don't want to mention this, but I think I will. There's something in that church that makes you itch. Because everybody is scratching everybody's back. And whatever it is, it only attacks the back. This girl was doing this. One was doing this. One was doing this. I'll tell you, after a while I itched all over. I set up, I took my jacket, I set up so she itched my back. I turned around, she's already scratching somebody's back. Who thought this up? Somebody said to me, bring all your kids, bring your babies. Now listen to this one. Because they're liable to hear something that they will never, ever forget. Now you want to go places and hear things that you'll never forget. That's important to you. I love that. I think I know who thought that up. You're not going to believe this. I was sitting right underneath a basketball hoop. And I'm not kidding you. I didn't bring a ball. But I will next time. They had another one down there. And if they move all those chairs, we could have a game. Who thought that up? I love that one, didn't you? Now listen to this one. People who are so frightened to look at themselves in the mirror get up out of their chair, walk that long, empty aisle, and get up in front and testify. And you believe that? People who were scared to death do it. Some of them mumbled, but they're all scared to death. The testimonies I heard were wonderful. This one brother talked about the atonement, and he said, and I didn't know this, he said that when Christ was in Gethsemane, he bled at every pore. Well, wait a minute. Your blood runs in veins. It's got to get out of those pores. That's an aneurysm. That's painful. And he bled at every pore. I didn't know that. Made me think about it. Wow. One lady stood up, and it was my neighbor. Olga, what are you doing? I didn't know she went to this church. And she got up there and told about the time her husband died. I used to help Olga. And she said, she told the whole story how the night he died, she called me and said, Ron, can you come over? I think he's gone. I used to help her bathe her husband every Sunday night for 5 years. And when he died, I went over and she bore her testimony. And she thanked me. I didn't know she even knew I was here. Then the fun part, all these kids got up and they went up front and they buried their testimony. I don't know where they put it. I looked for a box. I didn't see where they buried it. A couple of brothers came up. One gave a terrific, kind of dull travelogue on Alaska. That didn't fit. I liked the one about the cruise to Jamaica a little bit better, but that one I didn't like. And then some guy actually got up and gave a financial report about his business. Well, it was mainly successful. He wanted everybody to know that. And I'm not making fun of these people, but one lady got up. Do I have a box of Kleenex? Well, one lady got up and said, I didn't think I was going to do this. I just didn't do it. Just wanted to find Father. Here's what these people do. They come up and they cry and they do this, and then where do they go? Like that. This is the most germ-infected, bacteria-infected piece of world in the world. And nobody gets sick from it, as far as I can tell. Now, who thought that up? A lot of people mention Joseph Smith. One sister, I know what she meant. She got up and said, I know that most of this gospel is true. Well, we know what she meant. I'll bet you that Kleenex people sell more Kleenex to this church than any church in the world. Some of these things that I heard, I wrote down. I want to tell you some of them. It's too bad we can't remember everything we knew before we came here. I'm not sure what that man was talking about, but he said, if you could remember what you knew there when you got here, you would act differently here. Well, I didn't know what that meant. He even said you would treat people differently, you treat animals differently, and bugs. Bugs? And just a minute. He said, you'd never kill a bug? Well, I don't know what he's talking about. One professor got up and said, today, I gave my math students 2 tests. One was in math, one was in honor. I said, if you're going to flunk one, make sure it's the math test. I like that one. One man talked about the Holy Ghost, said he was your companion. It was a compass for us, he said. He said, one of the presidents of the church said the Holy Ghost speaks to us about over 100 times a day. I don't remember hearing it today, but I must have. One pilot got up and made a very interesting analysis. He says, I'm a jet pilot. I can get you at Mach 4 and I can get you The G's will be so strong I can turn you upside down and you will never know it. And that's what Satan will do to you. He'll turn you upside down and you will never know it. And that's how you lose your life. Several people have said that we spend too much time worrying about ourselves. One said, stop worrying about yourself and go to work. Ever feel lonely, really down, really despondent? I know how to fix it, just like that. Find someone you need to serve, and instantly, that'll be gone. What I heard then, I guess I can tell you, but they got an organization there called, well, it's for women. It's called the Relief Society. Now, these women didn't look like they needed any relief to me, but, well, some of them did, but anyway. But they go about doing good all over the world. It's the largest women's organization in the world. And after they do good, they relieve you, then they give you green jello, which relieves you more, I guess. I really love what they did with the old men. This was a riot. Now this, I don't know who thought this. They, after the first hour where they're sleeping, they wake them up after that first hour, and then they take them down the hall, and they put them in this room, and they lock the door, and they keep them in there out of the way. And I went down there. I wanted to hear what they were doing. I was listening. The little kid came. Shh, they're sleeping. No, I don't think so. I don't think they're sleeping. I hear them arguing. And, well, do you know what they call them? They call them high priests. I don't think that's fair. They look coherent to me. They look really stable and coherent to me. I don't know why they did that. And they all have the priesthood. Now, I heard a lot about that day. Did you know that came, well, I guess you knew, but that came right from Jesus Christ himself. Wow. If you have the faith, you've done things right, you can use that priesthood to heal something or someone. You can protect your family. Wow. They have a little bottle of oil. It's called consecrated oil. Now, if you're sick, let's say you broke your wrist, they don't pour it on the wrist. They pour it on the head. They drop a drop on the head. I found that very interesting. And this brother kept looking at me. I said, could I ask you some questions? Now, see, by now everybody's left. All the kids have gone off, and he and I are just about the only ones here. Could I ask you a couple questions? Sure. If I can ask you questions back. Okay. So he says, ask away. Well, what kind of oil is that? Olive. Olive. And then he said this, do you know that by changing two vowels, olive can be spelled I love? I didn't know that. I said, well, it comes from the olive tree, right? Yeah. And they told me something very interesting. When that olive falls, or they take it off the tree, it has to be crushed with enormous pressure and weight. It's like what happened to Christ in Gethsemane. It takes all this weight to get the juice out. And the first juice that comes out is red. The blood of Christ, the atonement of Christ, never meant so much to me as it did that day. And then I said, well, why do they put it on top of the head? He said, have you ever seen oil? He says, what's your body made up of mainly? Water. Ever seen oil on water? Yeah. It's on top, isn't it? Yeah. He said, have you ever heard, he said, when you saw the oil on the water, did you see anything? Colors. How many colors? Rainbow, 7. How many notes in an octave? 7. Have you ever seen a musical instrument tuned with a tuning fork to bring in it harmony? Yeah. How many systems are in your body? I don't know. Reproduction, respiratory, circulatory, skeletal, nervous, pulmonary. That's all I can. He says, and circulatory. And he said, and sensory. And then he asked me this: who is the light of the world? Christ. When consecrated oil is placed on the head, it goes to the 7 parts of the body to harmonize and to heal you. And he said, but you have to have faith. And he says it comes from Jesus Christ. Now that's all I needed to join this church when I heard that. My new friend then turned to me and says, now it's my turn to ask you some questions. I said, okay. What's the best, the largest, the most influential, the greatest university in the world? I said, Stanford, Cambridge, the Lord's Temple. Huh? You mean that they close them on Sunday, right? Yeah, but he says, listen, you can get information there that you can't get anywhere else in this world, and it's eternal. Wow. How often do you eat? Me? Oh, a couple times. Why? Why? So I don't get sick and die. Does your soul need food? Sure. Go to the temple. Every morsel at that temple is for your soul. Whoa. That was fascinating. You got any ancestors? Me? Lots of them. Are any of them dead? Most of them, I hope. You want to save them? Excuse me? Would you like to save them? Yeah, why not? Joseph Smith said, and then he said this: by doing temple work for your ancestors, when you get back on the other side, they will drop to their knees, embrace your knees, wet your feet with their tears, and manifest exquisite thanksgiving for what you have done to them. I know who thought that up. I said, so how do I do this? You got to join the church first. Okay. Keep the commandments. Okay. Always be charitable. Okay. Love your neighbor. Nah. Well, maybe I'll die before I do the temple. What else? You have to keep the word of wisdom. What's that? You smoke? No. Drink? No. You drink coffee or tea? No. Well, then you don't have to give it up. You want to be baptized? Yeah. Brother Girl, I don't think you're ready. Why? Well, this story is about me. I went to a little branch in Montana, and I saw all this. And it made more sense than anything I'd ever seen in any church on this earth. The Lord knew we needed Cheerios and crayons and Kleenex and temples and lunch boxes that have scriptures in it. He knew that. And when I said to the missionaries who wanted, they had to teach me, I said, I've never seen a church that has more goodness in it before you get in it that you see than any church I've ever been to. I was not a youngster when I joined the church. I was in my 50s. In 3 weeks, I'll have been a member 14 years. It's the best decision I have ever made. My wife and I were sealed on September 29th, 1989. My grandkids and 2 of my kids, I'll have all of them. Last week, my son-in-law finally joined the church. But I testify to you, brothers and sisters, that what you belong to is far more important than you realize. The depth of the true meaning of this church is greater than some of you realize. Walk on the path. It's easy when you're my age. If I were your age, I would probably be walking with one foot in the grave, 1 foot in the real world, and 1 foot in the church. I probably would be doing that. Why? Because of my age, because of the culture you live in, because of the society, the pop culture that you live under. But here's the great reward. It's in Psalms. Bring up a child in the ways of the Lord, and when you're old, you won't depart from it. I hope you don't depart from it, but if you're brought up properly, I'm pretty sure you're going to come back. But you live in a world where it's very difficult to keep the standards and to follow what we know. Do the best you can. Because I know who thought this up, and so do you. And I say these things in the name of the man who thought this up, even Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.